All right, I'm doing a sound check before we start. Can you hear me all right? Super. So let's wait for people to come in, and then we can start with getting deep into the topic. Super. Whew, a lot of preparation and a lot of nerves. How's your day, Doug? How's your day going? Okay, so let me introduce myself then before some more people join. My name is Alan. I'm your host today. For the last several years, I have been working in the personal development field. Touched a lot of topics connected to personal growth. Got my coaching certificate, and for 1.5 years especially, I've been deeply fascinated by the direction of psychology that touches personality typing. And I really wanted to share with you today a really important topic that I find everyone can feel connected to, and the topic of emotional intelligence. Let's dive in, I guess. So, once again, hello and welcome. And as I said, I'm your host, Alan Lane, and today we will be covering the topic of emotional intelligence. And let me show you the presentation slides. Here we go. Super. So, the topic of emotional intelligence. Today, we will have a seminar format with a Q&A session at the end. And let's begin. So, the topic of emotional intelligence, as many of you can relate, when we were growing up, at school, at home, and later in the university, the main notions that defined us were that your feelings didn't really matter. There's a word must, which leads to many wrong choices in life. that your thoughts weren't important, and if they were only important if they are in line with what the adult thinks is right. As well as self-expression was limited to the degree that our surrounding perceives its relevance and it being right. So here we are, many years later. Inside, we are still children who were not taught how to work with their emotions, how to express themselves, and even kind of express themselves in a unique way depending on the environment. Our competence to voice what we truly have inside was also defined. We were never really taught about listening to and understanding our feelings and emotions. And no one really told us how to voice our opinions in the right way. So that you can be in peace with yourself, knowing that your surrounding understands and hears what you really think and feel. As well as never deeply touch the topic of unique self-expression. So today, we will get introduced to the topic of emotional intelligence and how it affects our lives, and we will touch it from the perspective of the leader. So, who is this webinar for? This webinar is for people-centric leaders. So, people-centric is when a leader acknowledges that each employee is an individual. They're not machines, and therefore they deserve an individual approach. Leaders who acknowledge that a successful team is like a watch, where each part fits its place and serves its purpose and understands its contribution. Leaders who acknowledge that employee well-being is directly impacts the bottom line of the business and business growth in general. And leaders who unconsciously or consciously follow the Peter Principle, where each individual has their own competencies and cannot fulfill everything you throw at them with the same level of competence. As for example, if we take a really good salesperson who does really great, covers all the sales targets, and you want to promote them to being a manager, to manage the team of salespeople, and later you want to promote them to even higher position, but they don't have the needed competence level to be a manager and lead people. They're salespeople, and that's what the Peter Principle is all about. Hi guys, thanks for joining. So, let's have a look at the difference between hard skills and soft skills in people. Hard skills are really skills that we can really specify, we can teach, and we can really measure them, like typing, writing, math, reading, and using software programs. On the other hand, soft skills are less tangible and harder to quantify. They're considered character traits and interpersonal skills that characterize a person's relationships with other people, such as etiquette, getting along with others, listening, and engaging in small talk. Sociologists may use the term soft skills to describe a person's emotional intelligence quotient, opposed to intelligence quotient, as we know, the IQ. So, emotional intelligence is all the soft skills that we have as part of our self-expression. And for soft skills, it's really important to understand that really is the connection between our mind and our heart, our emotions and our thoughts. And when we touch the topic of emotional intelligence, there are two main models that currently represent it as a theory and practice. So The beginning to the idea of emotional intelligence was put by Peter Salovey and John Myers with their PUM model, and then Daniel Goleman popularized the concept of emotional intelligence with 5 Concepts of Emotional Intelligence book. And if we look at PUM model of emotional intelligence, it consists of perceptions of emotion, use of emotions, understanding of emotions, and managing emotions. And Daniel divided into 5 parts, where is it self-management, motivation, empathy and compassion, social skills, and self-awareness. So the PUM model, as I said, consists of 4 main things: perceive, use, understand, and manage. Salovey and Jack Meyer view the role of emotions in a way that emotions, rather than getting in the way of clear thinking, and rather than getting in the way of behaving you want to, actually help you. They say that we have evolved an emotional system that is intelligent, that provides information, and that actually, if you pay attention to it, can be useful and adaptive as you work with your family, in social life, and particularly in leadership. This emotional system helps us think clearly, solve problems, communicate, deal with social relationships, deal with work, family, and friends. And PUM model calls this system emotional intelligence and views emotional intelligence as a mental ability that can be trained and developed. So the 4 skills, let's dive deeper into them. So first of all, we have to perceive our emotions. The perception of our emotions is the ability to perceive or identify emotions accurately in yourself or in other people. And this includes expression of emotions accurately when desired, perceive emotions in other people through vocal cues, facial expressions, language, behavior, and identify emotions in one's own physical states, feelings, and thoughts. This one is really important, that we have to identify emotions in physical states, feelings, and thoughts. Second skill is the use of emotions. And that is the ability to use your emotions as a source of information, as data, in problem solving, in creativity, in social situations, to resolve conflict, to negotiate, and to behave in the way you would like to behave. Understanding emotions, the third skill, is the ability to understand emotions and use language to describe them. This involves understanding how a person might feel in the future, or under certain circumstances. Differentiate between moods and emotions. Label emotions and recognize relationships among them. And the 4th skill is managing emotions. The ability to manage emotions, that is to regulate your own feelings and regulate emotions of other people. And it involves stay open to pleasant and unpleasant feelings as needed and to the information they convey. So that is really critical, that when we work in managing emotions, we have to stay open to both positive and unpleasant feelings. Responding appropriately to emotions of others, not reacting but responding. Effectively manage other people's emotions to achieve the desired outcome, and effectively manage one's own emotions to achieve a desired outcome. Although emotional intelligence consists of 4 things in a given moment, people often have strengths in some of these dimensions, but not always in all 4 of them. Therefore, we all have a profile of strengths and growth zones. PUM model, when the research was written, when the model was built, it had several really important researches that showed that people who scored high on emotional intelligence actually, the score rate predicted leadership in the workplace, as well as being more sociable and more positive, contributing to a positive work environment, tolerating stress better, showing leadership potential, having strategic vision, building a better communicator, being a better communicator, satisfying other members of the group, and providing social support. I feel these are really important findings, especially when you are at the beginning introduced to emotional intelligence. Understanding that it really affects all dimensions of work life is critical to accepting it and starting to work in the direction of building awareness of emotional intelligence in your life. And the researchers suggest that emotional intelligence generally has an impact on the workplace performance. Moving on to 5 components of emotional intelligence that Daniel Goleman wrote out. Firstly, it's self-regulation, also known as self-discipline. This involves controlling or redirecting our disruptive emotions and adapting to changing circumstances. The propensity, the ability to suspend judgment and to think before acting. So this is really important, self-regulation, that we are able to control how our emotions are reflected to the outside. Self-regulation involves such things as self-control, trustworthiness, conscientiousness, adaptability, and innovation. Motivation, the second component, is the ability to motivate yourself for any achievement required clear goals and a positive attitude. Although many have a predisposition to either positive or negative, you can, with effort, practice to learn to think more positively. If you catch yourself having negative thoughts as they occur, you can reframe them in more positive terms, which will help you to achieve your goals. This is also a really important factor here, that we have to remember that even though we cannot control when negative thoughts come up, we have the ability to reflect on them, reframe them into more positive terms that will help us rather than stopping us from achieving the desired result. And motivation involves achievement drive, commitment, initiative, and optimism. If we talk about empathy and compassion, the third skill, the third component of emotional intelligence, it is the ability to recognize how people feel. And it's really important for your success in life and in your career. Empathy is the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand how they may feel or react to a certain situation. When one has empathy, the capacity to feel compassion is open. The more we can relate to others, the better we will become at understanding what motivates or upsets them. The more skillful you are at understanding the feelings behind other signals, the better you can control the signals you send them. Another really important thought, that when you understand what signals people are sending, what feelings stand behind their signals, you're able to control the signals you send to them to achieve their desired results. Empathy and compassion involve 5 things: service orientation, developing others, leveraging diversity, political awareness, and understanding others. As Chris Greel once said, that emotional intelligence is in fact emotional intimacy. It is the ability to connect with another person on an intimate level, where we could learn to be even a little bit more intimate. If we could learn to be a little bit more intimate, then the world would be indeed a whole lot better, and we could be a blessing to each one that we meet. And here's a really nice chart of engagement with other people when we show 4 types of emotions. Pity is least engaging. It is when you acknowledge that someone is suffering. Sympathy is when you care about someone's suffering. Empathy is when you feel their suffering. And compassion, if you want to relieve them from their suffering. It's a really nice definition, defining what really stands behind all those words in terms of engagement with other people. So, the 4th component, social skills. The proficiency in managing relationships and building networks with communication. You must have the ability to communicate effectively and properly manage relationships, because relationships are essential to success in your life and career. Of course. And in today's always connected world, everyone has immediate access to technical knowledge. Important fact, we all have access to technical knowledge. Thus, people skills are even more important now than ever, because you must possess high levels of emotional intelligence to better understand, empathize, and negotiate with others in a global economy. Social skills involve such things as influence, communication, leadership, change catalyst, being a change catalyst, conflict management, building bonds, collaboration and cooperation, and team capabilities. And the final part is self-awareness. The ability to recognize emotions as they happen. It is the key to our emotional intelligence. Self-awareness can be defined as having the ability to recognize one's own thoughts, emotions, and actions, and understanding their impact on others. Recognize and understand your own moods and motivations. Developing self-awareness requires you to be able to monitor your own emotional states and identify own emotions, tuning in to your true feelings. As practice shows, if you evaluate your emotions, you can manage them. Emotional maturity in this trait shows that emotional awareness, your ability to recognize your own emotions and their effects, having realistic self-assessment, and having self-confidence, the sureness about your self-worth and capabilities. This chart really shows the idea about the recognition, like the interconnection between recognition, regulation of self, and the social aspect of your life. At the beginning, we always start with the most crucial thing, is recognizing oneself, the self-awareness part of our being. Then we move to 2 things. We move to the social recognition. It is the social awareness when we understand the people around us. And we regulate ourselves. This is the self-management, when we learn to control our emotions. We learn to control our thoughts. We learn to control our expressions. And this together comes into relationship management. When we are able to already regulate ourselves, we already recognize what is happening in us, we understand what is happening in the other person, and then based on all that knowledge, we're able to build a relationship management strategy. What do these models have in common? These models both focus on the need to identify emotions in one's own physical states, feelings, and thoughts. Then, through conscious thinking and understanding, and regulate our emotional reactions to form conscious responses. As I mentioned before, through conscious thinking and understanding, regulate our emotional reactions to form conscious responses. This leads to the conclusion that self-awareness is truly the key to emotional intelligence. Why emotional intelligence is important, I found two really super quotes. One of them by Jim Rohn. It says that whatever you do not employ in your life, you forfeit. And wherever you don't use, you lose. And Florence said, if you do not run your subconscious mind yourself, someone else will run it for you. Think about this really deep thought that if you don't take control of your own self-expression, if you don't regulate your emotions, don't regulate your thoughts, or don't regulate your actions, someone else will define them for you. And let's dive deeper into the idea that we have to understand how thoughts work in order to create the desired life. Otherwise, someone else will create it for you. Let's have a look at the facts about subconscious mind that really make this point shine. So fact number one, your subconscious mind is always on. It's recording what you hear, what you say, what you think, and what you're not consciously even aware of. It records all your life memories and experiences. It stores all the events as mental movies and images in the mind. But, the biggest but of them all, it adapts the content of what is happening to its perception of reality. This is really, should be, one of the most crucial parts to understand, that each one of us, growing up, being in the environment we are, develops a certain perception of reality that goes in line with what our family thinks, in line with what our school is saying, and in line with what the university is pushing. We are creating this model of reality that wasn't created by our reflection on what is happening around us. It was created on the acceptance that someone knows better how to survive and how to live. And our subconscious mind adapts everything that happens around us and puts it through that filter of its perception of reality and forms its own understanding of what really went on, rather than really seeing what happened. Secondly, the subconscious mind does not hear no or not. It only recalls the image of what you say. And what that means is that when you say no more, please, no more, I don't want to have this thing in my life, the only thing that subconscious mind hears is more. And the same goes with people who are trying to stop smoking. When they say no more smoking, the subconscious mind hears the only thing, more smoking. It's also a really important fact to really get deep inside yourself. Fact number 3 is that the subconscious mind cannot comprehend the future, it only knows now. The present is the only tense that exists. Meaning, if you have goals, you should see them already as accomplished. Build the inner feeling of being there in the moment when that already happened in your life, that already was accomplished. And that idea of fake it till you make it is seriously misinterpreted in our time, because the faking is faking only the emotional state, not the actions. It's not about showing that you are a millionaire. It's about feeling that you have abundance in your life. It's not about wearing a fake Rolex or not being someone you're not. It's about building the emotional state that comes along with the future success already now, so that your inner body, your inner states starts to already form the needed connections of abundance in your life. And then the physical abundance that you're trying to build will come your way in much, much easier ways. Fourth fact is that our subconsciousness controls the large extent of our lives. It forms our habits, and we are creatures of habit. 90% of the things that you said and thought today, you also thought yesterday. And that means that we only control 10% of our lives. Fact number 5, the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between your imagination and the actual event. That is why we get emotional responses when we were watching movies. Remember those scary movies when something happens really fast and we jump from the sea? This is something that is called the emotional response. We're hardwired for safety. Our brain, the section of the brain that is responsible for reactions, is much faster than our conscious interpretation of reality. Therefore, we have to always understand that imagination and actual event in our mind is always the same thing. You consciously know that something is not real, but your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference. That is why, by the way, placebo effects works like drugs. Because your subconscious mind doesn't really know that you're taking something that isn't the real medicine. It perceives that you're taking it. And therefore, the whole body experiences an effect that is in line with what you should have taken. Same goes for fears and fantasies. When we think of them, our subconscious mind reacts as though it's happening right now. Try to remember those moments in your life when you feared something or you fantasized about something. Imagine what were the things that you felt inside. And really, I think you can relate to it, to the understanding that fears and fantasies, our subconscious mind reacts to it as though it's happening right now. Fact number 6 is that repetition creates mastery. Do say think something for a long time, you will eventually become part of you. Even though it's completely false at the time, here you can reflect and try to remember your grandparents. They are a really great example of what this means. Your grandparents, sometimes you can encounter that they have a certain idea in their mind that something should be in a certain way, but it's not true now, but they still live with that thought and with that idea. Any thought allows us to create a new neural connection in our brain. The more we practice the thought, the more connections are made, and therefore the more automatic the thoughts, emotions, and behaviors become. On a quantum level, we start to attract the very things that you place in your subconscious mind. Because each thought and emotion has their own vibration. They give out thin mimic signals. You can always, if you focus hard enough, you can see, hear, and feel what emotions people have, and sometimes even what they possibly think. And by this, attracting the things that you think about or focus on most. This is sometimes called the law of attraction. And if we go to the power of thought, here we can say, once again, that we are creatures of habit. Once a certain thought finds its way to our subconsciousness, we start to think about it over and over again. This is why we get the same reality over and over again. To consciously choose a better reality, we need to become aware of our subconscious thoughts, emotions, actions, beliefs, and values. Too often, then reflect upon and integrate them, and then release all the associated negative emotions and their energetic hold on us. Only then we can create a lasting change, consciously rewiring our subconsciousness with the new thought, emotion, action, belief, or value that will help you to build the life you really want. Before we continue, I will have a quick drink, just a moment. Oopsie. Thank you for noticing. Oh, let me start again. Forgot to turn the microphone on. Alright, so beautiful words on self-love once again. As I began to love myself, I found that anguish and emotional suffering are only warning signs that I was living against my own truth. Today, I know this is authenticity. As I began to love myself, I understood how much it can offend somebody as I tried to force my desires on this person. Even though I knew at the time the time was not right and the person was not ready for it. And even though that person was me. Today, I call it respect. As I began to love myself, I stopped carving for a different life, and I could see that everything that surrounded me was inviting me to grow. Today, I call it maturity. As I began to love myself, I understood that at any circumstance I am at the right moment, I'm in the right place at the right time, and everything happens exactly at the right moment. So I could be calm. Today, I call it self-confidence. As I began to love myself, I quit stealing my own time, and I stopped designing huge projects for the future. Today, I only do what brings me joy and happiness. Things I love to do and what makes my heart cheer. And I do them in my own way and in my own rhythm. Today, I call it simplicity. As I began to love myself, I freed myself of anything that is no good for my health. Food, people, things, situations, and everything that drew me down and away from myself. At first, I called this attitude a healthy egoism. Today, I know it is love of oneself. As I began to love myself, I quit trying to always be right, and ever since I was wrong less of the time. Today I discovered that is modesty. As I began to love myself, I refused to go on living in the past and worry about the future. Now I only live for the moment and where everything is happening. Today I live each day, day by day, and I call it fulfillment. As I began to love myself, I recognized that my mind can disturb me and it can make me sick. But as I connected to my heart, my mind became a valuable ally. Today, I call this connection wisdom of the heart. We no longer need to fear the arguments, confrontations, or any kind of problem with ourselves or others. Even stars collide, and with their crash, new worlds are born. Today, I know that is life. Thank you. I really enjoyed this poem. Each time that I read it, it brings up certain emotions deep inside me, and it really opens up our being to accepting the notion of being more emotionally aware in our own lives. Now I would like to introduce you to a highly effective approach to developing our emotional intelligence that we have talked about for the past half an hour. For the past 2 years, I've developed a highly effective approach to developing our emotional intelligence with the use of modern psychology and ancient wisdom to provide what we can call a quantum leap in self-awareness, self-management, motivation, empathy, compassion, and social skills. This approach I called the personality profile, which serves as a foundation for the corporate team mastery training that I have compiled. The core idea of it all that all change starts from within.
by creating external factors and stimulation for happiness, it will only get us that far. It is facilitating a lasting internal change of the individual by gifting them the opportunity to build self-awareness and emotional intelligence. It creates a wholesome echo of growth and change throughout the entire organization on all levels and playing fields. Facilitating growth of self-awareness in each employee in the right way will have a huge impact on their life satisfaction, on their people skills, their relationships, and provides a platform for each team leader to get a deep understanding of their team members on an individual level. The right way is really gentle topic, which allows the individual to feel safe and at the same time opens up an opportunity to create an intimate connection with the team leader, the team, and life in general. As well as provides information to hold effective developmental sessions with each team member individually, to strengthen communication, build mutual understanding, provide the ability for a team member to be heard and understood. It gives guidance for individual approach to motivation, as well as facilitating their growth, and much more. You as a leader also get to build your leadership mastery foundation and find your inner lion. You will find your unique leadership style. Know your leadership derailers, shortcomings that you should work on. Reflect on how you react and how you can be perceived. Recognize on personal triggers that create obstacles to your success, as well as start gaining control of your reactions and behaviors. Are you ready to take your emotional intelligence to the next level? For more information, go to my webpage, alanlate.com/ctmt. Thank you for tuning in and listening, guys. So, Q&A time. Thank you for joining for my first ever live webinar. I really enjoyed it. I know there's a lot to improve, but I hope you found it valuable. I would love to hear your feedback and discuss the topic of emotional intelligence right here, right now. So, tuning in on YouTube and Facebook, and if you have any questions connected to emotional intelligence, I'm so wanting to hear you. So whilst we're waiting for some questions to come in, I want to really stress the fact that each one of us has a personality profile that consists of things like mental models, energies that we came to this earth with, and personality patterns that we adapted from our environment, from our parents, from our neighbors, from our friends, from school, teachers, from university, from the media. Everything around us in our social circles really rubs off on our understanding of what life really is. And if we don't consciously question the ideas and models we have in our life, we won't be ever really free. We won't really have the opportunity to say that you are building the life that you genuinely want to build, rather than saying that you're building a life that you perceive is right to be built. But why it is right, you cannot say that it was your choice, that it was your self-reflection that led you to that understanding. Most of us build our life based on the ideas that we receive from our social environment. We get the understanding of what life should be, what choices should we make, what should we study, where should we work, how we should realize ourselves in this world, only based on what others tell us. Very little amount of people among us really have the opportunity to consciously reflect on their reality, to say, like, what our parents or what our social surroundings says to us, is it really true? Does it still work? If we look at the whole system of education that we have built up till now, it is a system predicated specifically for the purposes of corporations to build loyal servants that sit for 8 hours a day without asking questions and doing certain chores or tasks that the employer needs them to do. The only thing that changes the amount of knowledge that is perceived to be a standard. Otherwise, the amount of detail, the amount of knowledge that we receive into direction of really reflecting on our inner state, on really trying to understand of what we feel, what are those emotions inside of us that majority of the time we suppress. What thoughts do we really want to express to the world? What thoughts do our parents really, the world should really hear? And how can we genuinely express ourselves? Oh, we have a question. So Christina is asking, so I have a team and I want to build a relationship based on emotional intelligence. We do have within the company appraisal meetings. This is a set of questions of professional growth or related work issues. How it will look like building such level of relationships in my team and among my employees. The list of questions where employees have to answer or any other methods. Super great question. So based on the training that I put together, the main idea there is that each employee individually, including the team leader, goes through an interview typing session. An interview typing session is basically when individually you sit together with each employee and the team leader separately and go through a series of psychological tests, and as well as based on their date and time of birth, putting that all together later into a big profile called the personality profile. And what is done next has several directions of how can it be approached. So first of all, each individual has its own coaching session where they go through their personality profile and reflect on their life, on their situation, on everything that they are consciously and unconsciously. And depending on the request of each individual, we will touch certain aspects on a little bit deeper level. But the main core idea is to give a foundation of what each individual has in their self-expression based on the personality profile, and give him the tools for further development of emotional intelligence. When we talk about the leader in his turn has a little bit more. A little bit more that besides understanding your personality profile, you also get your leadership profile, that you understand everything that you are as a leader, consciously and unconsciously, as well as you get a second session where we will take each individual on your team. You will get a short version of their personality profile that is specifically crafted for the maximum use for the team leader. And it will have such things as understanding the employees' talents and strengths, individual approach to motivation, understanding how to manage conflicts, build deeper communication and mutual understanding, and much more. And then there's also the ability to hold one-on-one developmental sessions with between the team leader and the employee, where you sit together specifically for the purpose to develop that intimacy that we are talking about in emotional intelligence, where you both learn to understand, accept, and hear each other's expressions, behaviors, thoughts, and you're able to build an understanding of how to build communication within your team, between you two, the best way. So you will cover the conflict management, the feedback strategy, motivational strategy, talk about the position fit, and just general building of interpersonal connection between you two. And the third step, which you're able to take after all the steps beforehand, is the team dynamics. And the team dynamics, I will be inviting over also my mother, who has a lot of experience with group coaching. And there we will go through using the personality profile of each individual and the team leader to build strong mutual understanding within the team. So beforehand, we built inner self-awareness foundation so that each employee understands themselves, how they're perceived, how they react, and receives ideas how to improve their emotional intelligence. And on the team dynamics, you get an idea of how to really get the team together in one place and get them intimately opened up to each other on a level where they can relate to each other, understand the models of communication, understand how to best approach each other, how to provide feedback to each other, and genuinely be more emotionally interconnected with each other. And therefore, of course, as we talked before, that when we have high level of emotional intelligence in each employee, when they are able to be self-aware, when they're able to understand their colleagues, when they're able to regulate their own behaviors, reactions, and so forth, we get the building blocks of relationship management, where they can get together and then they can have really genuine conversations about how to best interact with each other, how to best work with each other to achieve the demanded and needed results, and have much more contribution to the team, much more contribution to the company, and the overall results of the company will also grow due to growth of emotional intelligence in each individual. I hope that answers the question. Any more questions, guys? Or if you need clarification, I'm happy to add more comments. Oh, great. We are at an hour of our live session. If we have any quick additional questions, I would be happy to answer. But then for today, let's see. Super. Then for today, I would like to say thank you to you all for participating. Hope that you found out something interesting for yourself, something valuable and that you can take away from this webinar. If you did, I would love to hear your comments of what you found most fascinating or inspirational or insightful. It would bring me additional ideas. How can I improve this webinar for the future? And in general, I wish you all a really pleasant evening, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you, guys. Ciao, ciao.